I have messaged Shannon. I've not heard anything. I assume that he is out driving to a facility or doing something. So what we're gonna do is, Suresh, if you're cool, maybe you can just get going. And actually, before we start, though, I want to say I've put up in the jumbotron or up above a couple of things. One is a post from Curtis. Curtis is cross posting this entire event on LinkedIn. So if you are on LinkedIn, or if you have to transition away from X for whatever reason, you can go and listen to this there on LinkedIn, so you can be up to date on everything that's happening at our facilities. And then the other thing is the October facility roundup info, which is a graphic that will align with all the info that we're going to share today. So if you're a visual learner or just want to look at something, that may be of interest. So go ahead, you can click in that, and that is up above in the quote jumbotron. Still don't see Shannon. That's okay. I think the show must go on. So Suresh, if you're cool, why don't you
Yeah,
go
no
ahead
worries.
and start? And it looks like Shannon's going to leave you to pitch all 9 innings, maybe. Do you want to start with Indiana?
I was thinking like maybe I'll just start with a quick overview first.
Great.
I think it would be good for everybody to know that we saw like a 98% uptime across all our sites for the month of October, which I think overall was really positive. We did have some curtailments as normal, as expected across various of our sites. But despite that, the overall uptime remained really high, and more or less machine utilization across all facilities has remained consistent. We have seen some issues at some of the sites, and as we will discuss as we go through them one at a time. But yeah, I just wanted to just let everybody know big picture, what's it looking like from my side. Jumping on to Indiana. So Indiana, as I mentioned, overall, we're still seeing some curtailments. Not a lot of them, but we're still seeing some of them. We saw about like 3 to 4 curtailments at Indiana across the month of October. Not much, but that did drop down our overall uptime to 98% and 97% respectively for 1 and 2 Indiana. It wasn't like a significant outage on any occasion. However, overall performance at the site has been good. We've been consistently ticking up on our utilization as well at both the sites. We do have some miners in movement, so the machine utilization looks a bit lower than it actually supposed to be. Largely because we've been deracking some machines. So just a bit of minor movement affecting the statistics we're looking at. Um, and yeah, that's about it on the Indiana. Jared, I'm assuming you want me to just run through the next few as well?
Yeah. Is there anything else to add on Indiana outside of, or maybe for each facility, what we could also do instead of doing this at the end is anything that we should be thinking about for November, December, January, kind of a 3 month forecast. I know that as it gets colder in the United States, we may, have some different weather challenges as opposed to in the summer months when it gets really hot, when it gets really cold, that can also present challenges. So I don't know if you want to call it anything else for Indiana particularly, or, kind of maybe give some alpha into things that could be happening over the next 3 months.
I think we don't have much planned at Indiana other than the minor movements that we're doing right now. Mostly what you'd expect to see over November, December, January, at least for the next 2, 3 months for Compass, is that at all of the sites, you'll see a lot of minor movements where older generation machines are being taken off the racks and newer generation machines are being put online. You'll notice that increasingly more and more turnkey machines are being made available on our website. Of course, like turnkey implying that we guarantee that the machine will come online for you within 48 hours after purchase. So yeah, so a lot of that has got to do with us putting in newer machines at the facility, making it available for our customers. So yeah, just a lot of minor movements. That's mainly the big theme for the coming months across all sites.
Okay, sweet. I think that that's great. If you want to go ahead and take Iowa, we can get Shannon up on stage, and then maybe Shannon can take the following couple facilities. But yeah, do you want to dive into Iowa, Suresh?
Yeah. So with Iowa, we've been steadily expanding with this partner. We've had a good relationship going. They've been deploying a lot of miners for us and for themselves. But despite the excessive load on the on-site team in relation to deployments, they've still been doing a steady job in maintaining our machine utilization. Uptime sits at 97.94 and 98% respectively for the two Iowa sites. And utilization is at 96 and 93% respectively. We've seen like a bit of a slowdown with miner diagnostics over the last week or so while the team has been busy with deployments, but we do expect to like catch up and jump back over 95% in machine utilization over the coming weeks because the latest info on the deployments is that they're not done, and we will be having the team refocus on troubleshooting.
Sweet. Shannon, how are you doing? Welcome up to the stage here. How's things?
Things are good, Jared. How's it going?
It's going well. It's another facility roundup. Do you want to step in and pick up where Suresh left off?
Possibly. Let's let Suresh do one more.
Okay.
I think I sent you the link you might be looking for, so maybe that catches you up. So I'll take the next one being Manitoba. Manitoba has been a really steady site for us for a long time. We've been there a long time, and we have a good relationship with the partners. Uptime at the site this month was 99%. We did not see any curtailments at the facility. Of course, like some machines for customers may have gone offline due to being in need of troubleshooting or some other issue. However, overall, the facilities did not curtail all throughout the month, and that was excellent, which led to higher utilization. We did clock in at 94.7 at Manitoba 2 through 9, and things have been looking good. We do have some upcoming minor movements within the Manitoba site. So Manitoba 2 through 9 are like a bunch of sites within a small proximity, which all house a few hundred machines. And we're just doing a bit of a movement within those sites to reallocate machines to appropriate sites. And I think that's the main task for the upcoming month, which may result in some minor downtime for some customers, but we don't expect that to be anything longer than a week or two.
Perfect. And then heading into Minnesota. So Minnesota's been one of our best sites since its inception up there. Been running for a few years at this point in time and just doing great. So uptime was exceeded 96% with high machine utilization as well. So this last month or so, there was actually a lot of maintenance work that went on up there, even though the site's been running for several years at this point in time and hasn't had any noise complaints or anything like that. The site partners and operators went ahead and installed a bunch of sound dampening acoustic material to the fences around the property just to continue to improve any sort of future issues as far as sound goes. So any sites that are container based, it's difficult to control the sound in the containers, and want to make sure that we're being the best partners for the community and make sure our partners are being the best partners for the community. So it's great to see this happening. They had other network maintenance and general things happening at that site. One thing that's happened to that site in the past from a maintenance standpoint, before we were doing these roundups, was a lot of the containers we had up there, the shelving and everything was designed specifically for Wutz miners. And as everybody knows, Wutz miner is a very different profile than an ant miner. So they've actually been modifying the containers over time to be able to fit either miner. So have to go in, plasma cutter, cut out various pieces of metal that are designed to deflect the heat out the exhaust fans of some of the containers and adjust some of that so that we can fit any miner type up there. So that was something that happened previously as well. So all the sites are always adapting to it. The next big adaptation within containers we're seeing is the needing to modify them to fit the Antminer S21 XPs and S21 Pros, because they're almost a full inch wider than the predecessors. So anybody who didn't have adjustable shelving within their containers or had horizontal orientation with fixed shelving, this creates a problem because they no longer fit in the infrastructure. This has just been kind of an ongoing thing with Bitmain since the inception of them making miners. As they come out, and the next generation could be a bit longer, a bit shorter, a bit wider, a bit taller, or use different components, different fan headers, different pieces like this. And the industry doesn't know this happens until they show up, and we just have to convert things on the fly. So a bit more on Minnesota there. So Nebraska is our most recent, or I guess not our most recent anymore, but one of our most recent facilities that we just put up. Since it's been turned on, it's been 100% uptime. Currently have 91% machine utilization, so just fine tuning. A lot of the machines that were put in there were relocations, and so they, as we talked about in the last call, being older generation units that are starting to have a bit more need for repair, whether that's fan failures, control boards, or just other maintenance that needs to go on. Um, Basically, there was during the every site that anybody ever does, there's always going to be issues in the initial deployment. Always going to be unforeseen things, whether that's waiting for an inspection or that's you go to energize and there's a part that's DOA. So it could be a substation, it could be a PDU, it could be network cables, power cables. And you don't know these parts are dead until you can get them fully energized and online. And so whenever you experience that, it's always a matter of adjusting on the fly. So if in this particular situation, we had a section that had some issues, had to relocate. I don't know, I guess it was 2.5 megawatts worth of miners from one section of the farm to another section of the farm, which caused a little bit more delay, a few more days of getting fully up and online. And now we're currently have clients that are upgrading from older generation miners to new gen miners. And so we're de-racking some of those old gen miners and putting in the new gen ones. So you'll see utilization decrease. So even though the site's online and the power's there and the internet's there and has that perfect uptime, the utilization is lower just because we're in the process of pulling old gen miners out, plugging in the new gen miners for the clients that ordered those. Suresh, you want to hit Ohio too?
Sure. Ohio 2 is one of the campus operated sites. We didn't have many curtailments there this month. We just saw one incident and it was just about an hour downtime. However, we have been experiencing some electrical issues at the site. So this means some issues, for example, in relation to the cabling inside the containers, or for example, the cabling to the exhaust fans, issues of that kind. This doesn't affect the miners and the hardware the customers host, but it has more issues with the containers and the electrical components attached to the containers. Usually when this occurs, we are forced to turn off certain sections of the container, or in some case, the entire container. We've had a few of those incidents at Ohio 2 in October, which might have been the large contributor to the downtime customers have experienced. This is reflected in the machine utilization as well at 88%. That's because a significant portion of the facility has been offline at some point during the month due to some or the other infrastructure issue. So yeah, that's the story at Ohio 2. We're trying our best. We've been working with the operators, with the owners of the site, and we have our on-site staff available to complete the repairs where we can. But we do have some electricians visiting to help us complete it. Because there are certain components that our on-site technicians cannot do, and we do have to wait for electricians to come in and look at it. So just delayed because of that, but we do expect to be hashing at full capacity in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Thank you, Suresh, for that one. And Shannon, before you hop on to the next facility, I just want to call out once again that up in the Jumbotron or up in the pinned posts here, we have an image that lays out all of the information that we're going to be touching upon today for all of our facilities. It has the uptime and the machine utilization. So if you're a visual learner and you want to tap into that while Suresh and Shannon are talking, please go ahead to find that link above. Shannon, sorry, I'll give you the mic.
No worries here. Next facility looks like is Ontario. So heading back up to Canada. It looks like there's someone from Canada. There's a Canadian flag down there below. But as far as the Canada facility, so this last month we had 100% uptime, 96% machine utilization. A lot of the machine utilization stuff is just the same rhetoric across all the sites as we're looking at older generation miners needing more repairs than new generation miners, or de-racking old gen miners as clients upgrade to new generation miners. One of the things that Suresh and his team implemented this last month was just improving and enhancing our ticketing system. So ticketing systems for us, whenever miners have issues, work two ways. We have the ticketing systems that we deal with our clients. So that's the Zendesk platform through our website and your client dashboards. It's on the website, and being able to use that ticketing system when you guys are having issues and respond to it. But at the same time, we have ticketing systems within the sites to be able to serve requests and make sure that the miners are quickly getting attention. So even before we get tickets from our clients, obviously if a machine's offline for any period of time and there's not ongoing site maintenance or some other known issue, then we're initiating tickets with the staff on site to be able to go action repairs and troubleshooting of those miners from that standpoint. So as we continue to improve, ticketing systems across the company, clients should see improvements within their dashboards, and also continuing to see time to resolution decrease across this as well. Do you want to hit Texas one, Suresh? Or you want me to?
Not sure. I'll take it. I feel like Texas 1 and Texas 5 have a fairly similar story. They both experience approximately 12 and 11 curtailments, respectively, for each of the site. I think I'll just hit on the key piece with Texas 1. I do think like the machine utilization being at 89% should be addressed. That's largely because of the exhaust fan issue that we're having currently on site. There's a container with its exhaust systems down, which means that we've just had to power down a large portion of the container. So those machines are offline, and we'll be back online as soon as we can get the exhaust fans back on. I know it seems like funny that it's happening at Ohio too, and it's happening at Texas 1. Actually, it just happens everywhere. These exhaust fans are running at such high RPM all the time, across so many hours, so many days. So eventually they just give out, and the on-site staff are pretty much always in a race to keep maintaining the infrastructure and replacing parts as and when they do get the opportunity, or like wherever the need arises. Other than that, Texas 1 has been pretty much a non-issue. They've had decent uptime despite like the several curtailments. Uptime has been 94%, which is good, keeping in mind that they did have 12 curtailment incidents, which were fairly long. On average curtailment period was 4 hours, so like 4 12s is a significant amount of downtime. But despite that, they managed to have a 94% uptime, so it's pretty good. Yeah, I'll throw it over to Shannon for Texas 5.
I mean, I think you covered most of Texas 5 there, and now they're similar between Texas 5 and Texas 1, which I think kind of rounds off our facilities. And that's just something in general, when you look across Texas, most of those sites are always going to be similar because you're dealing with an ERCOT. So as far as the reason why curtailments happen that we've discussed before is whether that's hitting 4 CP in the summertime, or we're dealing with just grid loads. So in the summertime, the retail and commercial loads ramp up with air conditioning, and that consumes a lot more power. And so as the grid increases the amount of load that's across everything, and when it hits certain benchmarks, you're required to, if you're entered into the ancillary programs, to curtail your load. And you're entering into these programs because one reason is, if you don't curtail your load at the higher ones, the more emergency ones, then you're going to actually potentially risk, brownouts and rolling blackouts and things that California experiences a lot. And so having large loads like Bitcoin miners that can just turn down help balance and stabilize and flatten out this load for the ERCOT grid. The other side of that is obviously economics. So if everybody pays attention to Bitcoin price and difficulty, economics are important, and to be able to provide clients with rates for hosting that are lower than what their commercial or residential power rates are in their area requires us to participate in a lot of those programs. And obviously, as we get into these colder months, periods of times where you see no curtailment at all because the grid's nice and stable, not a lot of heating and air conditioning going on. As we hit the hotter months in areas that use a lot of heating that is electronic, you'll see issues there. Areas that have a lot of natural gas-based heating, you don't see as much curtailment in those areas. So there's always that bit of a balancing act in us being good participants with the grid and trying to optimize between uptime at the sites and being that good participant and making sure that we can have underlying power rates that allow us to maintain posting rates that are lower than residential and commercial power in most areas that you can get it in. So from there, I don't think we had Kentucky, is it 4 now? So we had I guess it was a press release about a 10 megawatt expansion at Kentucky 4. So once again, landing 10 more megawatts of miners. Tim and his team are on site, been on site the last 2 weeks, racking those miners, still on site. I think the goal was to have roughly about 7 megawatts online. I don't know where we're at from that standpoint. And then next week, handful more techs out there trying to get that site fully ramped up to the 10 megawatts. When we move into existing sites, it's always a balancing act between getting all the miners racked, cabled, and then going through and troubleshooting not just the miners, but the systems. So if we're going into existing infrastructure, are there damaged network cables, power cords, PDUs? How is the network topography set up? Are we able to quickly identify the miners in the network? Is there, roadblocks within the network and the way it was set up that we have to address? At that time, we have a lot of individuals on our team that spent a lot of time dealing with Bitcoin mining networks and serving IPs to over 1,000 miners on that network. And in this situation, what's the total miner count for 10 megawatts? Are we at like 3,000 plus miners? So serving all those IP addresses and making sure that it can be controlled, accessed, monitored, and all that fun part of it along the way. So there's a lot that goes into a deployment. And when you're going into existing infrastructure, there's a lot of unknowns. So even when it's a new site, it's a brand new infrastructure, there's unknown holdups and hiccups and things that don't work. And then when you're going into existing infrastructure, it's the exact same concept. So a bit of a balancing act every time we deploy a site, but excited to see that get online and start moving like it's supposed to. So, and then hopefully should have some fun announcements coming out next month on more sites, more expansions, and just more opportunities for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, Shannon, for kind of finalizing things there on the facility update. I see Colby's on stage, and Colby, before I pass you the mic, I want to say I put some other pin posts up here. One of them is a podcast that Shannon and I recorded, where Shannon really laid out the current landscape of the arms and the energy and land arms race that we're seeing. He kind of just touched upon that, and he's been touching upon that throughout all the facility updates. So I would check that out. And the other thing I want to say is on the most recent podcast that we did it with people from the Space Denver, two of the co-founders, Tyler and Wyatt. And if you're in the Denver area, or even if you're not in the Denver area, consider coming out to Denver in the second week of November. We're going to be out there. We have our first ever Bitcoin technical mining meetup at the Space Denver. This is their launch week. That's going to be on November 14th. There's more information on that in the podcast, and we'll be publishing a lot more here on the account on Compass. And then on the 15th, we will be doing a screening of Dirty Coin, which is very exciting. If you haven't seen that, it is a phenomenal documentary about the benefits and the global benefits that Bitcoin mining is bringing to energy grids, to communities around the world. And then on the 16th, the Space Denver is going to be having their official inauguration launch party. There's going to be the who's who of people from Bitcoin in Denver and Bitcoin mining in Denver. And there's going to be people coming in from outside of Denver, which is really exciting. So even if you're not located in Denver, I would invite you to consider coming in for those days. Once again, on Thursday evening, you have the Bitcoin Technical Mining Meetup, which Compass will be running. On Friday is going to be the screening of Dirty Coin. That's November 15th. And then on November 16th, there is going to be the inauguration launch party of the Space Denver, which is going to be one of the newest community spaces in the United States and honestly around the world to facilitate Bitcoin community, Bitcoin mining conversations, everything that has to do with the protocol that we all know and love. So I just wanted to kind of shout that out and take this moment, because by the time we hop up for our next facility update, that will have already passed. Colby, you're on stage. How you doing?
Yo, I'm bullish. Now is a excellent time to have some efficient hash online. Am I right? Hash price is up like 33% from the all-time lows. Macro's looking great. I'm sure a lot of you saw MicroStrategy announcing that they're going to be going back to market with about $21 billion in equity offerings over the next 3 years, and also another $21 billion target in fixed income instruments. Microsoft is voting on whether or not they should add Bitcoin to the balance sheet. And of course, the Fed is going to continue dropping rates. So it's a good time to consider adding some efficient hash power to the portfolio.
It is absolutely a great time to be adding some efficient hash power to the portfolio. I also want to open it up if anyone else would like to hop up on stage. If you have a question for Shannon or Suresh around our facilities, a specific facility, maybe some of the overarching concepts that they've been talking about, the changing in of, some of the newer gen or next gen hardware for some of the older hardware, anything that has to do with some curtailments, feel free to come up on stage. I don't see many people looking to come up on stage. I haven't had any requests. So if there aren't any requests, what I'm going to do is we're probably going to transition. And I want to call out that on the next facility update, which will be for the month of November, we're going to be doing that on Black Friday. So that is the Friday after Thanksgiving. If you're stateside and you're celebrating Thanksgiving, I want to get that date. That is going to be the Friday, the 29th. So if you are tuning into these, we will see you next Friday, the 29th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Black Friday. So whether you're headed to the mall or you have that hangover that you get when you eat too much turkey and you're stateside and you're sitting on the couch, you can tune in. If there's no one else to come up on stage, I am going to call this and big thank you to Shannon and Suresh for helping out and sharing all of the important information around our facilities. We really have this space as a place, a digital space for people to come up, ask us questions. It gives us, that front-facing customer moment to say, hey, my miners are in Texas 1, and I want to understand more why my miners are down. And that gives Suresh and Shannon a moment to kind of say, hey, let's build some context. This is why this is happening. So thank you guys for really running and being the pilots on this. I feel like I'm a co-pilot on this one. If there's nothing else, Colby, thank you for hopping up on stage and talking about why now is the time to mine. If not, I'm going to call it and thank everyone, and we will see you on Black Friday, which is going to be November 29th at 11 a.m. So going once, going twice. There we are. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you on Friday, November 29th at 11 a.m.